Many people idolize the celebrities and famous people who fill our TV screen and movie theaters. And we sometimes forget that they are really just people like you and me, and as such, suffer from the same issues that we do. Mental health has been discussed more in recent years, and it has become apparent that many of our idols suffer with different mental health conditions and have been able to overcome them to greatness, even if only temporarily. Stay tuned to number 1 to find out which of People's sexiest men alive also happens to be completely OCD. Number 10. Britney Spears. Born December 2, 1981, Britney Spears is an American singer, dancer, and actress who became famous with tracks like Oops, I Did It Again and Hit Me Baby One More Time. Her outstanding career came to an abrupt halt in 2007, though, when she experienced a highly publicized mental breakdown. Since then, Britney has spoken about how her crippling anxiety resulted in her being institutionalized due to her fragile mental state. One of her most reckless acts leading up to her breakdown was when she was caught driving around with her baby son on her lap. After a number of very public incidents, including completely shaving her head, Britney was forced to acknowledge that she needed to dedicate more time to herself and to her mental health. Thankfully, Britney managed to make it through and is now in a happy place with a nightly show on the Las Vegas Strip. Number 9. Demi Lovato. Born August 20, 1992, Demi Lovato is an American singer, songwriter, and actress famous for her roles in Barney and Friends, Camp Rock, and her work on The X Factor. Lovato has suffered from depression, self-harm, and eating disorder and was even the victim of bullying. After struggling without a diagnosis for some years, Lovato hit rock bottom and was admitted for treatment, where she was finally diagnosed with bipolar depression. For those of you who don't know, bipolar disorder affects just over 12.5 million people in the US and about 29 million people worldwide. That's a lot of people. The condition is normally diagnosed when someone experiences at least one manic episode and involves both manic and depressive episodes. Thankfully, Lovato's treatment plan worked, and now she works as a mental health ambassador to help other people. Number 8. Angelina Jolie. Born June 4, 1975, Angelina Jolie is a famous actress, filmmaker, and humanitarian activist. She has appeared in many high-profile films like Tomb Raider and Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and she has also been noted as being one of the highest-paid actresses in Hollywood. Jolie has used her fame to champion a number of humanitarian issues like child poverty, women's rights, human rights, and environmental work. But even the most famous celebrity can suffer with mental health conditions. After struggling with mental health issues as a teen, Jolie later said she felt feelings of emptiness and depression. It is perhaps not surprising that it was her humanitarian work that gave her meaning and guidance to her life. Number 7. Howie Mandel. Born on the 29th of November, 1955, Mandel is a famous comedian and actor who has appeared as the game show host on Deal or No Deal, also as a judge on America's Got Talent, and he is the wonderful voice of Bobby from Bobby's World. Mandel has openly discussed his extreme case of obsessive-compulsive disorder and how he has a fear of contamination and germs. He even shaves his head because he believes it's cleaner. Unfortunately, he is so affected by his condition that he does not shake hands with anyone, and when he is forced to, he has to wear latex gloves. During his time on Deal or No Deal, he would fist bump the contestants instead of shaking their hands. Sadly, some have used his condition to mock him on TV, and there have been a number of occasions where he has refused to shake someone's hand, and he's even had his hand grabbed by other performers, which is not really a great thing to do to someone with this type of phobia. Although he has struggled with it from childhood, he didn't seek help until he was an adult. Number 6. Mary Todd Lincoln. Going back in history a bit, born December 13, 1818, Mary Todd Lincoln was the First Lady of the United States and wife to President Abraham Lincoln. Sadly, she was a witness to her husband's fatal shooting and outlived 2 of her sons. Losing so many of her family members brought overpowering feelings of grief, and 10 years later, She was involuntarily institutionalized for depression and pernicious anemia. Before she was institutionalized, her behavior became erratic. She was known to walk around the city with $56,000 in government bonds sewn into her underskirts. Clearly not something you'd do if you were thinking clearly. Instead of helping her, after she was locked up, she sadly tried to kill herself. In 1876, she was finally released from the institution and went to stay with her sister. She spent the following years traveling around Europe until she died at her sister's house in 1882. Number 5. Winston Churchill. Born on the 30th of November 1874, Winston Churchill was a famous British statesman who served the UK as Prime Minister during the second half of the Second World War from 1940 until 1945. And then again between 1951 and 1955. He was instrumental in inspiring resistance among the British people with his remarkable speeches and radio broadcasts. Lord Moran served as Churchill's doctor for a number of years, and in his publicized memoir, he described how Churchill suffered with prolonged and recurrent depression. However, there has been much debate around the nature and extent of Churchill's illness. Although Lord Moran claims that Churchill named his illness the Black Dog, others have highlighted that he only used this phrase once or a couple of times in his personal memoirs. However, regardless as to what extent he suffered from depression, it is perhaps not surprising that he'd suffered periods of lowness during the darkest days of the Second World War. Number 4. Heath Ledger. Born on the 4th of April, 1979, Heath Ledger was a famous Australian actor and starred in a number of high-profile films like A Knight's Tale, The Dark Knight, The Patriot, and many more. Ledger accidentally died in 2008 from overuse of prescription drugs. In the years after his death, many people who knew him came forward to talk about the aspects of his life, and many commented on his sleeping problems. There were even rumors that in his role as Joker in The Dark Knight contributed to his mental health issues. However, in recent years, his sister came forward to highlight that he was actually happy when The Dark Knight was being filmed. As with many similar situations, we are likely never going to know the full extent as to what was going on in Ledger's head. Number 3. Russell Brand. Born on the 4th of June 1975, Russell Brand is best known for his work as an actor, comedian, author, and activist. He is also known for outbursts at award ceremonies, his dismissal from MTV, and his short marriage to Katy Perry. On top of this, he is perhaps most remembered for his long history of substance abuse and mental health conditions, such as nymphomania and bulimia. Having now been sober for many years, Brand at one time was addicted to heroin, crack, alcohol, sex, and pornography. And his addictive personality has even been tied back as early as his childhood, where he claims to have been addicted to chocolate. Brand worked hard and was supported throughout his recovery and has successfully been able to kick his addictions. Now he works closely to support those organizations that help him and others overcome their addictions. Number 2. Herschel Walker. Born on the 3rd of March 1962, Herschel Walker is a former professional American football player, bobsledder, sprinter, and mixed martial artist who has played for the Dallas Cowboys, the Minnesota Vikings, Philadelphia Eagles, and the New York Giants. He was such a successful player that he was introduced into the College Football Hall of Fame in 1999. In 2011, it became apparent that Walker suffered from dissociative identity disorder, or DID, which is also known as multiple personality disorder. This is characterized by an individual having at least 2 distinct identities or personality states. Walker first started suffering from DID at a young age and pushed himself to overcome his difficulties. But as he grew older and started playing football, he found it difficult to separate his aggressive nature from his home life, and was ultimately unsuccessful at doing so. Thankfully, Walker has found the support needed to be able to deal with his mental health conditions and now lives a happy life. Number 1. David Beckham. Born on the 2nd of May 1975, David Beckham is the famous former English soccer player who won 19 major trophies. He is the son of Ted and Sandra Beckham, and he married Victoria Beckham in 1999. In 2006, Beckham openly admitted that he suffered from obsessive-compulsive disorder, which has left him being addicted to rearranging hotel rooms and lining everything up to make them perfect. He said that everything had to be in pairs, and if he had too many Pepsi cans in the fridge, he'd move the additional ones to a different cupboard. His wife stated that they own 3 fridges so that everything could be arranged to her husband's liking. I guess the upside to having all that money makes organizing things a lot easier. Sadly, OCD is among the 10 biggest causes of disability. However, hardly anyone openly discusses their issues, and it's still considered a hidden illness in today's society. Tell us what you think about the stigma of mental health conditions. Do you have any personal stories to tell? Let's talk in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more from Zero to Hero, and be good out there. Be the hero.